And how are we? Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Golf Live. Glad you are here with us being Trey, Wingo, and the great Justin Ray, the Tiger Woods of golf researchers. We are in separate places than our usual domains as we are getting ready to travel all over this globe for golf in a myriad of different reasons. But we're always delighted to be here with you and share our thoughts and get your thoughts on the things that happened this week in golf. Justin, how are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. Do a little quick family getaway before I embark on a 3-week sojourn overseas to the Open Championship and then staying over there for a week, and then the Women's Open Championship. So busy time of year, but it's a labor of love for sure.
Listen, there is nothing better for me. You know, we see all these polls on all these golf websites and social media accounts that are out there, and they always say, you know, rank your majors or do this, do that. A lot of people love the Masters. I get it. A lot of people love the U.S. Open. I get it. To me, the Open Championship is my favorite major in all of golf. It's the history of it. It's the one that got it all started. And I just love links golf especially. So for me, the Open Championship is far and away the best of all the majors. And I was so happy to have done that for 7 years at ESPN. So I'm thrilled for you to be able to continue to do that for the variety of outlets that you work for in your journey. It really is special. And if people haven't ever thought about going over there, do it one time in your life, right? It's just, it'll change the way you think about the sport.
Yeah. Last year, my experience also had driving in the UK for the first time in my life. So that was an exciting morning, coming off of a long flight to get in the Irish rainstorm and try to drive on the other side of the road for the first time in my life. But no, I'm with you 100%. And I think, look, growing up as a kid, I always romanticized the lowercase d democracy of the U.S. Open. That was my favorite.
Right.
And then the Masters kind of lured me in the first time I went, and I was like, this is special. It's different than anything else. But as I've kind of evolved in my career and gotten a little bit older, I think the Open Championship, too, is my favorite of the 4 men's major championships. Just the extensive history, the depth of it, the venues, the weather. It's a great week, and I can't wait to get over there and get it going here. Forget the Scottish Open first, but after that, we'll be ready for the Open Championship. It's an awesome week. Fire up the coffee, get up dark and early, and enjoy some golf.
Yeah, and real quickly, the driving thing, it's real. One year I was visiting my daughter in L.A., so I flew out of L.A. I went L.A. to Heathrow to Edinburgh for the Open Championship that year was at Muirfield, the year Phil Mickelson won, which we will get into a little bit later on in this show. And not only did I have to drive over there, get over there and drive after a long flight, I had to drive a stick. Now, look, I've driven a stick my entire life, but driving a stick left-handed in Scotland, gear shift with the left hand, not the right hand, after a long flight, I was a little concerned not only for my safety, but everybody's safety on that road. It wasn't a highway. It was a road. And
my first car was a little Ford Ranger I had when I was 16 years old, and that was stick, and then never again. Never again. It didn't even make it out of high school. So kudos to you for being able to pull that off. Because I don't think if they give me a stick, I'm gonna say, listen, send me to another Enterprise or wherever. I can't do this.
It was my skills were tested. Let's put it that way. And the other thing, driving on that side with the stick, they're like, you know how close you are to the median when you drive on the right, and how far away that hedge feels on your right shoulder. But when it's on your left shoulder, the stone wall is on your left shoulder. It is a weird dynamic, man, as you're trying to figure out how to negotiate all that stuff. So again, much ado about nothing there, but it is
slice of life, though, man. You know,
slice of life.
It's part of the entire experience. Get yourself a Guinness, split the G to ward off the nerves from your drive. Drive back from the course.
Yeah, but see, as we say on the show, we celebrate the entire selection, and that's
right.
part of the process. And part of the process this past week on the PGA Tour was Chris Gotterup catching fire again, doing what he's done a couple of times already this year, coming from behind on a Sunday, putting up a 62, and getting out of there with another title at the John Deere. And it was a reminder Justin, I think for everybody, the guy that we saw that started the year on fire, won the Sony Open, which is now going to be a stop on the senior tour, then backed that up, catching Hideki Matsuyama, who always plays well at the Waste Management Open, firing out of the gate really early with 2 wins and showing us that he's still sort of capable of that form as we get towards the last few regular season weeks on the schedule.
Yeah, and you think about a year ago at this time, heading into the Scottish Open, which he won. He was a one-time winner on the PGA Tour, and it was an alternate field event. I think it was Myrtle Beach the previous year. And now he's got 5 PGA Tour wins. Since the mid-May 2024, the players with the most wins on the PGA Tour, Scottie with 10, and then Rory with 5, and Chris Gotterup with 5. It's pretty remarkable. And then you mentioned shooting 62 to win, and just to put that into perspective, there have been 4 times a player has won on the PGA Tour this season shooting a final round of 64 or lower. 3 of them are by Chris Gotterup. The other one was Wyndham Clark when he shot 60 in Dallas. But to think that nobody in the modern era, as far as I could find, it gets a little sketchy pre-Arnold Palmer, but I could not find another instance of a player winning 3 tournaments in a PGA Tour season with a final round of 64 or lower. He's got the potential to go nuclear hot, much like the Wyndham Clark, we aforementioned, who's won 2 major championships now. He's excellent off the tee. That's what he's most known for. Gets talked about his distance, but he's a top 30 putter in terms of strokes gained this season on the PGA Tour as well. I would say there's probably a 90-95% chance, maybe even higher than that he's on the President's Cup team.
Look, you know me. You know how this goes. I'm on a plane more than I'm actually at home. Between work trips and golf trips, my schedule this summer looks like a mess of airports tee times. However, the thing about that is all that travel, nutrition is usually the first casualty. You're grabbing whatever at the gate, skipping meals, running on basically coffee and adrenaline. And that is why Kachava's new travel packs have become a major part of my routine. It's my go-to all-in-one nutrition shake, now in travel packs, and it's stupid simple. I throw one in my bag before I head out the door, mix it up wherever I am, and boom, just like that, I am covered. What I love is that I can keep my routine intact no matter where I land. One packet gives me, wait for it, protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, greens, probiotics, omegas, electrolytes, and so much more, all in one shake built for life on the move. Now for me, I've been rotating through the chocolate and chocolate mint flavors, and I gotta tell you, it genuinely doesn't taste like a health product. And the benefits? Well, come on. I've noticed steadier energy through long travel days, and when I'm feeling good physically, everything else seems to fall into place. Plant-based nutrition that actually tastes good. No fillers, no nonsense, no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. Take your routine with you wherever you're headed. Go to Kachava.com and use the code WINGO for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, KACHAVA.com, code WINGO.
Will be really interesting to see how he plays in that setting. Of course, he was probably the most controversial player that was left off this side of Keegan Bradley off the Ryder Cup team last year. So interesting to see him in a title defense situation this week at the Scottish Open. But this guy's ascension from playing at Rutgers not too long ago, transfers to Oklahoma, has an All-American season, and then now is, when some of these guys turn 30, Chris Gotterup's going to be the best American player in his 20s pretty soon. When I think it's, when I think Colin Morikawa is on the verge of turning 30. The list is short, but those guys, those guys are getting to that age, so he's going to earn that distinction pretty quickly. Yeah, a reminder of just how quality a player he is, and that he's a force to be reckoned with, and should be at the Open. He had a great Open championship last year as well.
Yeah, and there was a lot of talk about whether or not he had played his way on to the Ryder Cup team because he was hot at the time, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't the 2-year sort of overall picture that you see so many times when you're trying to put the pieces together. And that's maybe something that you can help influence our captains with when they're talking about captain's picks. Instead of a 2-year window, who's playing great over the last couple of months? And certainly you could make the case that going into Bethpage, he would have fit the bill in that category for sure. So with that being said, and you mentioned that he's fairly soon, if not now, going to be considered the best U.S. player in his 20s, what's his ceiling? Because I had a chance to speak with him when he was up at TPC River Highlands for the Travelers, and we'll get to some of that sound in a minute. But he is certainly a guy, much like Cameron Young, that you're going to have to start thinking about, okay, this guy is going to be a factor in majors for the next decade and a half.
You'd think so, and I think also just the diversity of golf courses that this guy's won on the PGA Tour already. Winning a Scottish Open, Wailea is a very unique setup, and he's won there. The environment in Phoenix is very different. I mean, you're talking about these very different golf courses, very different situations. John Deere, same thing. It's kind of, it's got its quirks for what it is as a design. These are very different places, and it shows a eclectic collection of skills to where he's not just pigeonholed into one place. I would like to see him win a golf tournament that's not, 18, 19, 20 under par, but
right.
Honestly, we could say that about most of Rory McIlroy's career, and he's going to go down as one of the 10 best players to ever live. So it's the ceiling is incredibly high for Chris Gotterup. I mean, I would be surprised if within the next few years he doesn't pick off a major championship, but I'd love to see him get another one of these big ones under his belt. The biggest one so far to date he has being last year's Scottish Open.
Right, and you mentioned winning the John Deere, and when he was up here for the Travelers Championship, I had a chance to sit down and talk with Chris because this was just after the new tour track or two-track tier system came out from PGA Tour CEO and soon-to-be Commissioner Brian Rowlap about the working title, Championship Series, and Challenger Series. And I asked him a very specific question. The John Deere is near and dear to his heart, and in all likelihood, we don't know for sure, but starting in 2028, I'd say most people would be shocked, if not really surprised, if that was on the championship level as opposed to the challenger level. And so I asked him, you feel loyalty to the John Deere, and obviously he showed that again with his ability to win. How would you feel if you were not able to play in that event anymore if you're on that championship tier and that's a challenger tier series? And here's what he had to say.
Leave with the way things are going in the PGA Tour with this event, but you mentioned the John Deere. In a couple of years, it might be on a different track system. Mm-hmm. I love the Brian Rowlap said yesterday, the working titles. In other words, they may change. Yeah. Championship Series, Challenger Series. And one of the things that they said is, if you're on the champion, you can't go down and play on the Challenger.
Yeah.
And it's a situation where, like you said, you feel like the John Deere really jump-started and kick-started your career, and it may be a situation where you won't be able to go play that. If that's the case, how would you feel about that?
I think it's something that we have no say over for the most part. And I think, it depends on, there's also a million different things that are moving with that. There's no reason to say that John Deere can't become if they want to pony up and be a signature event, then they will probably do that. And then there's then the question doesn't, exist. But I think it's something that we, can't really think too deep into. We're kind of like programmed to just show up where we need to be and try to play well and try to play the best course. But it is, one of those things where I know Andy and Nathan on a personal level, just from being here for so many years, and same with the people at Deere. So I think that would be, the tough part, but at the end of the day, you kind of just have to be selfish and kind of do what you're told in some sense.
It's going to be difficult. And, Justin, we sort of talked about it on this show, and I've talked about it with a lot of my friends at my club and guys that I play with. I can't imagine a scenario whether if Chris wanted to play, or especially if he's a top 5 player in the world, or a guy like Scottie Scheffler, who still is the number 1 player in the world, says, no, I'm going to go play the Byron Nelson. I don't know how the PGA Tour can really say you can't. But then one of my friends brought up a really interesting question. He's like, okay, well, let's say he takes a spot from somebody in the Challenger Series that week, and that guy misses out on being promoted to the championship level because of his inability to play that week, because Scottie came down to play either the Byron Nelson or the Colonial, I guess the Charles Schwab. It's always the Colonial to me,
We know what you mean.
Yeah. And so I really hadn't thought about it that way. And I think that does create its own set of problems.
Yeah, it does. I was thinking to myself, well, maybe they have a 1 per year type exemption situation where if you have, you made your PGA Tour debut or got a sponsor's exemption when you were an amateur or a past champion. I remember Adam Scott always came back to the Houston Open. It was one of his first wins, and he comes back every single year. He never would have had to, and for all those 10, 15 years between his victory and when it wasn't, it didn't. My point is, he didn't always have to go back. He was at a different level in his career at that point, but he was loyal to it. It is interesting, and it's something that, look, we talked about how last week about how the rules aren't the same for people who deliver. They're not the same for the people who, are your money makers, your biggest money makers and earners in whatever industry you work in, right? So there's always going to be some toes to step on, and that's kind of the price of what this evolving system is you're going to have some situations like this where either you got to tell Chris Gotterup you can't play the John Deere Classic in 2027, or Scottie Scheffler you can't play the Byron Nelson or the Colonial in 2029, or whatever the situation is. Maybe you don't let them play the event in back-to-back years. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be some kind of caveat system where they can reach a middle ground, because it feels like that's been the MO of this new PGA Tour administration from the jump.
Yeah, again, Brian has said we will be rigid in the vision and flexible in the details. And I have to believe there's going to be something that can be worked out where if it means that much to these guys on the championship, they can dip down maybe, like you said, one time a year, but then make sure those guys whose spots they're taking aren't penalized in some way, shape, or form, because you'd hate to see that be the reason between somebody getting up to the championship series and then staying on the Challenger Series because of that 1 week where that happens.
Some kind of compensatory point system thing. I don't know if you're the last man out of the field, what's your average points you've earned over the course of the season to date? I don't know. I'm just spitballing, making things up, but there's got to be a way mathematically to make it even and make it work out.
By the way, another thing at the John Deere, two other guys I want to sort of give some props to. Lucas Glover, still going out there. Like when we talked to him, he said, he's done a lot in this game. What would he want to do? I said, by the time I'm, be in my mid to late 40s in 2028, I'd like to be on the championship level. Almost came away with a win, just came up short. And nice to see Max Homa finally playing well.
Yes.
Max has really been in it the last couple of years, and I mean in it and you see him all the time trying to figure. It looked like he just played golf. He wasn't playing golf swing at the John Deere, and that was nice to see for a guy who's won a bunch of times on tour.
Max, I think it was either 31 or 30 on the back nine Sunday, and he had a look about him that was like, oh, I haven't seen this expression on Max's face in a while. Like it's been a minute since I've seen the guy who knows he's going to will the ball into the hole. He knows, like that shot he hit, I think it was on 17 on Sunday from the fairway trying to reach that green in 2. He came up just short, but it was the way he walked after the ball. It was like, oh, okay, Max is feeling it now. Okay, it was nice to see. And to the point with Lucas Glover, led the field in strokes gained tee to green in your mid-40s against all those young guys. The guy's always been a flusher. That extended putter probably added a few 7, 8, 10 years to his career, but all power to him because he's always been a fantastic tee to green player, and he showed his skills again and nearly coming away with a victory at John Deere.
Yeah, and obviously we talked to him a lot. I do think that one of these days he might end up being commissioner of the PGA Tour. Just the way he thinks about it, and the way he sort of goes about his business, and is a guy who really wants to be in depth about things. Now that's years from now because he wants to keep playing for a long time, I'm sure. But it would not surprise me if one day down the road the name and title Lucas Glover PGA Tour commissioner go together at some point. So another player that's been playing well and has come along a little bit after a little bit of a rough patch a couple of years ago is Collin Morikawa. Collin, of course, won earlier this year at Pebble Beach in what was a huge shootout, and then, of course, was in contention at the Travelers right up till the very end and just came up a couple of strokes short of that playoff. I also got a chance to speak with Collin about where his game is, the thing he's been through this year with the back injury, and what are his goals going forward. And here's what he had to say.
Speaking of fine lines, I couldn't help but be impressed with the way you played at Augusta, knowing what you were dealing with the back issue. I've had a few in my day, and you could just tell that you were you were this close of making one wrong move, and and you managed to figure it out. How did you manage to work through that?
It was more of a mental battle. I mean, physically, it wasn't comfortable by any means. I didn't think I was going to hurt myself, but every step I took, I didn't know if something was going to pop up. Yeah. And it was more of the walking that scared me versus the actual swinging. Yeah. And when you get to the week, I want to play. Like, I do not want to withdraw. I don't want to just take it in. Like, I want to somehow compete and find a way. And Augusta's an interesting golf course where I would never want to play like that again. Yeah. But you can use the slopes. You can kind of work your way around the golf course. And on the 12th hole, when I made my little stretch of birdies on the final round, I just told my caddy, I was like, let's do something special. Let's have some fun. You know, I've grinded it out. I'm going to keep doing that. And just every putt just started dropping. And it was more of a mental battle telling myself, you know, I'm a strong competitor in that sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're just able to find a way.
What's the next thing? Do you have a thing you want to check off next? Would it be the Masters? Would it be the U.S. Open?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I want to win another major again. Those are obviously starred and highlighted in my calendar. But just continue winning.
Yeah.
You know, if I felt so comfortable in that moment at Pebble that I know it's not going to just go away. Right. But a lot of things have to go your way, and you have to put in the work. You have to put in the time. You got to have the shots break and bounce in your direction those weeks. But at the end of the day, it's like just giving yourself a chance come Sunday.
Yeah.
I think that's what, like, you look at Scottie and Rory right now, who are obviously number 1 and 2 in the world. They're giving themselves those opportunities. So it's just cleaning things up a little bit more. But, you know, I can't be picky with the majors yet until you win all of them. Yeah. So, you know, there's some work to do. You know, I know I've got 2, but
more.
There's more.
The answer is more. Yeah.
More.
What's enough? The answer is more.
You can't have enough.
Yeah.
Well, ain't that the truth?
How about until you win all of them? What a sentence.
Exactly.
Man, half a sentence.
Goal stated without stating goal. You know what I mean? That's what it was.
For sure.
It's funny, Justin. Years ago, when Colin was sort of on this bender, won the 2020 PGA, then the 2021.
Oh, victory bender.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be clear.
Not the kind the Australian soccer fans have been chanting about.
Correct. Or the Tartan Army.
Right.
You know, the 2020 PGA at Harding Park, then the 2021 Open Championship. You and I were having discussions years before we were even thinking about doing this. Is Collin Morikawa the best overall player in the world? Is Jon Rahm the best overall player in the world? And you sided with Rahm, and I can understand why you would go there. But we both agreed that when he's at his best, Morikawa might be the best iron player in the game.
And once again this season, he leads the PGA Tour in strokes gained approach. He did something incredible a few seasons ago. I think it was 2023. He led or maybe 22, but he led the PGA Tour in average proximity from 125 to 150, 150 to 175, 175 to 200. I call that like the iron play triple crown on the PGA Tour. That's unbelievable to be able to do that. I couldn't, you know, Scottie's gotten close a couple of years, but I mean, this guy in full flight, he is, for my money, it's either him or Scheffler, the best approach play in the world of the men's game. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And look, he's back up to 5th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained total this season. I know he hasn't broke through with another win since Pebble Beach, but it's good to see him getting healthy, getting in better form. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out and he usually will sneak up on you and put up a 65. And you're like, oh, yeah, there it is. I mean, you know, so it's good to see him playing better golf. Already got 1 Open Championship under his belt. I'm sorry he can't add to his total of different majors yet again in 2026. But the guy with that kind of resume, talent, and confidence, that's how you can say a sentence like that and really believe it.
Absolutely. And by the way, both the Gotterup interview in full and the Collin Morikawa interview in full are available on the Wingo Network, wherever you get your podcasts, or you can also find them on our YouTube pages, Trey Wingo and Trey Wingo Golf.
And if you're a fan of watching, you can continue to see the range session of the amateurs behind Trey and his interview subject. I was waiting for somebody. A guy like hurt his wrist at one point. I was waiting to see someone skull one, but they looked like they were decent players. But
we weren't on the pro range. We weren't on the pro range. We were on the AM range.
Worth watching the entire interview in both instances.
And by the way, we do have one with Lucas Glover when Scottie Scheffler just walked behind us with his son to go out there and hit a couple of balls too, which was kind of fun. All right, we are just getting started here on this edition of Golf Live. We will get to your questions a little bit later on the show, but when we come back, Justin mentioned the Scottish Open. It's always a great precursor to the Open Championship, but why this year it's even more of a tantalizing treat for all of us that love this game.